All right, welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving deep into the genuinely chilling, highly calculated tactics that predators use to target vulnerable night shift workers. We're going to be looking at 4 true, just completely terrifying encounters, all sourced straight from the people who actually survived them. You know, if you've ever worked a late shift, you already know the exact feeling we're talking about here. You've got those overly bright fluorescent lights inside, it's pitch black outside, and there's this deep, kind of unsettling sense of isolation. But as you'll see in a minute, the real danger isn't just the isolation itself, it's how these people literally weaponize that isolation against you.
Okay, let's actually just kick things off with this incredibly eerie quote. This comes from a 2017 encounter at a super rural gas station, and honestly, it perfectly sets that atmospheric dread of a 2 a.m. shift. So, a 21-year-old clerk was getting a bunch of prank calls from someone using this forced, over-the-top horror movie voice. When the clerk finally got annoyed and sarcastically told the caller to just give it up, the voice completely dropped the act. The guy let out a very real, very normal laugh and then delivered this absolute gut punch of a line. I shouldn't be rude to people who know where I am. That right there hints at the calculated danger lurking just beyond the glass. It wasn't a prank at all. It was a predator, essentially announcing his presence.
So, moving into our first tactic, psychological warfare, where the whole goal is basically breaking down the target. See, long before a physical threat ever materializes, perpetrators use this prolonged surveillance and intimidation to essentially paralyze their targets. They don't just want to watch you, they want to induce a state of fear that totally clouds your judgment. Look at how this timeline brilliantly illustrates that escalation for that young gas station worker we just talked about. Notice how it unfolds over a single night. The caller didn't just try to spook him once, he repeatedly called, even pointing out how quiet the store was getting, proving he had eyes on the building the whole time. Then, at 11:40, a blank-faced man actually walks in, takes 10 full minutes just to buy a single bag of chips, and just stares unblinkingly at the clerk before walking out to a blind spot behind the building. When the clerk finally decided to lock up early and sprint to his car, he heard the immediate slapping of speed-walking footsteps right behind him. He barely got out of there, and incredibly, actually scratched that, infuriatingly. His boss later reviewed the footage and brushed the stalker off as just a regular customer. No way. Now, check out this stark contrast here between normal customer behavior and the actions of an actual stalker. Take a look at the right side. This is from a 2 a.m. Walmart electronics section. An employee noticed a guy who literally never picked up a single item. Instead, he just hovered in the clearance aisles, constantly shifting his position just to maintain a direct line of sight with her. I mean, he clearly wasn't shopping. He was hunting. He was studying her routine and just waiting for the exact right moment to make a move. Which brings up a really crucial question, right? We've seen how they watch, but how do they actually act? Once a target is sufficiently isolated and they've been studied enough, how do these individuals initiate the actual trap without causing an immediate scene or giving the victim an obvious reason to scream for help?
And that brings us to tactic number 2, the decoy tactic, or creating an illusion of safety.
This is a highly effective, deeply sinister method used to disarm victims. Predators know for a fact that when we're scared, we naturally look for allies. So what do? They manufacture one for you. Look at how this creates a literal predatory playbook. It relies so heavily on a victim's totally natural inclination to trust a smiling, helpful stranger when things feel tense. Step 1, you identify the target. Step 2, you send in the Trojan horse, which is usually a woman who appears totally unthreatening or overly friendly. And step 3, you use her to lure the target away from safety, away from the cameras, and away from witnesses. Notice the absolutely chilling similarities when you compare these two distinctly different encounters because they use the exact same playbook. On the left, in that Walmart encounter, while the employee was being actively stalked by that hovering man, a woman suddenly rushed up, grabbed her arm like they were old friends, and claimed the stalker was recording her. She literally used the employee's existing fear to try and drag her toward an unmonitored side exit. Then, on the right, we have a bartender named Cadence, who was working a shift entirely alone. A very sophisticated-looking guy in a trench coat had previously scouted the bar. Well, he came back with a trendy woman sporting this big, fake smile. She touched Cadence's arm, started complimenting her profusely, and then tried to lure her outside for this supposed $10,000 weekend job at some exclusive club. In both cases, the decoys used physical touch and feigned familiarity to manipulate the targets. But here is the detail that is literally gonna make your blood run cold. As the Walmart employee realized she was being led to a dark, camera-free exit, her instincts kicked in. She ripped her arm away and bolted.
And as she was escaping, the decoy woman yelled out the employee's real name to try and get her to come back. The thing is, the employee had never introduced herself. Security footage later proved that the male stalker and the female decoy had actually walked into the store together. So these were absolutely not random crimes of opportunity. These were highly targeted, planned operations. So what happens when deception fails? Well, they escalate to tactic number 3, coordinated ambushes, or springing the trap. When they can't trick you, attackers will attempt to flush you out of your safe zone and into a prepared trap. Listen to this insane reaction from a highway gas station encounter at 2:30 in the morning. A guy in a red hoodie rushed inside, super frantic, claiming his car had broken down right near the pumps. He's begging the lone clerk for a jump or some gas, but he explicitly refuses the clerk's offer to call a tow truck. Huge red flag. So the clerk silently hits the panic button underneath the counter, and this loud, screeching alarm starts going off. But the attacker didn't panic at all. His fake urgency just vanished completely, and he just smiled this slow, knowing grin, like he had all the time in the world.
So why on earth was he smiling? Because, well, he wasn't alone. That highway clerk managed to avoid the ambush solely because he happened to glance up at the security monitor behind the counter. On the screen, he spotted a second person crouching in the shadows, hiding right behind the bumper of that broken-down car. It totally shattered the attacker's fake urgency. And it gets crazier. When the men realized the gig was up and fled into the woods, police later found their abandoned car. Come to find out, it had been stolen 100 miles away, and the passenger door was left wide open, proving a third person had been waiting inside the whole time. It was a perfectly laid trap, literally just waiting for that clerk to step outside.
And you know Cadence, that bartender we just talked about? She faced a shockingly similar, absolutely terrifying siege. Days after she rejected that decoy's lure, the woman actually came back right at closing time to order a drink, clearly acting as a distraction. Suddenly, Cadence hears the front door click shut. She looks out and sees a black van with unregistered plates idling outside, and masked men are waiting right by the glass. Almost at the exact same time, someone starts violently banging on the solid metal back door. The strategy was crystal clear. Terrify her from the back so she'd panic, run straight out the front door and right into the waiting van. Honestly, she was only saved because her boss miraculously pulled into the parking lot at that exact moment, which scattered the attackers. It really forces us to ask a very dark question here. What was the ultimate goal for that black van at the dive bar? Or that stolen car at the highway station? These orchestrated setups highlight the severe, coordinated danger that these workers were facing. This isn't about someone trying to shoplift a candy bar. This is something much, much darker, involving multiple people playing very specific tactical roles.
Which brings us to our final and probably most important point. Tactic number 4, trusting your instincts and breaking the social contract.
Let's analyze the one singular survival mechanism used by all 4 of the individuals in this explainer. They simply refused to play politely. This is honestly the biggest takeaway of all. The perpetrators in every single one of these stories actively weaponized social norms. They completely relied on social compliance. They knew the Walmart employee would initially just follow a woman who grabbed her out of the fear of causing a scene. They knew the highway clerk would feel this immense social pressure to help a stranded motorist in the dead of night. But surviving meant completely shattering those social expectations. It meant yanking an arm away. It meant locking the doors before closing time, even if it violated company policy. And it meant hitting a panic button even when a guy is technically just asking for a flashlight.
Cadence actually put it perfectly in her account. She said she often wonders what would have happened if she panicked, but she didn't. Instead of running into that trap outside, she grabbed a heavy metal cocktail shaker, dialed 911, and she held her ground inside that locked bar. She proved that freezing up or blindly complying out of panic is exactly what the ambushers are banking on. When you refuse to do what they expect, it literally breaks their entire system.
Because all of these stories share one terrifying reality. The true threat isn't just some random monster hiding in the dark. It is highly organized groups of people running practiced psychological plays on isolated targets. They use surveillance, they use decoys, and they use coordinated ambushes. They are incredibly methodical and they are patient. So I'll leave you with this final thought to ponder the next time you find yourself entirely alone in a public space. If a stranger asks for help that feels just a little too weird, or if someone acts a little too friendly when your gut is screaming at you to run, are you going to worry about being polite, or will you be prepared to break that social contract to survive? We really hope the insights in this explainer help keep your instincts sharp. Stay safe out there, and seriously, always trust your gut.